Before you check your phone, before the world speaks to you, you speak to yourself. And what you say in those first quiet moments decides whether today controls you or you control today. Every morning, your mind is empty soil. Whatever you plant first will grow strongest. If you plant fear, you grow weakness. If you plant discipline, you grow power. Every morning before the world places labels on you, before success or failure tries to define you, remind yourself of one grounding truth. You are a student of life. This single thought keeps the mind open, flexible, and alive. The moment you believe you have arrived, the moment you believe you already know enough, growth quietly stops. Not because opportunities disappear, but because the mind closes its doors. To be a student of life means accepting that learning never ends. It means understanding that wisdom is not something you collect once and carry forever. It must be renewed daily. Each experience, pleasant or painful, carries a lesson. When you wake up with the attitude of a learner, nothing is wasted. Failure becomes instruction. Difficulty becomes refinement. Even silence becomes a teacher. An empty cup can be filled. A full cup spills nothing new. When the mind is full of assumptions, pride, or fixed opinions, it rejects truth without realizing it. This is why the most dangerous words are, "I already know." They create blindness. But when you say, "I am learning," you remain alert. You listen more carefully. You observe more deeply. You become adaptable rather than rigid. Being a student does not mean being weak or uncertain. On the contrary, it requires strength. It takes courage to admit that you do not have all the answers. It takes discipline to observe your own mistakes without defending them. Many people protect their ego instead of improving their character. A student protects growth, not pride. Each morning, life presents you with a new lesson, even if the setting looks familiar. The same job, the same people, the same routine, yet you are not the same person as yesterday. You either grow more aware or more careless. The student mindset keeps you sharp. It asks, "What can I learn today?" instead of "How can I prove myself today?" One leads to mastery. The other leads to exhaustion. When you make a mistake, the student does not collapse into self-judgment. They analyze, they adjust, they continue. Self-criticism without learning is useless. Learning without self-hate is powerful. If a lesson is painful, it does not mean you are failing. It means the lesson is important. Fire hardens steel. Pressure creates clarity. A student of life also understands that knowledge is not the same as wisdom. You can read many words and still live unconsciously. Wisdom comes from application, from practice, from repetition, from humility. It is built slowly, through experience, not instantly through information. Each morning is another chance to practice patience, awareness, restraint, and courage. There will be days when you feel confident, and days when you feel lost. The student accepts both states. Confidence teaches you what works. Confusion teaches you what needs attention. Nothing is permanent. Everything is part of training. When you resist this truth, you suffer. When you accept it, you grow. To be a student of life also means observing yourself honestly, watching your reactions, noticing your patterns, seeing where anger rises, where fear controls, where discipline weakens. This observation is not meant to shame you. It is meant to guide you. You cannot change what you refuse to see. Awareness is the first form of discipline. The student does not rush the process. They respect time. They understand that roots grow in darkness before the tree is seen. There is no impatience with progress, because progress is happening even when it is invisible. This calm trust removes anxiety. It replaces comparison with focus. Each morning when you remind yourself that you are a student, you free yourself from unrealistic expectations. You stop demanding perfection. You commit instead to effort. You stop asking for easy paths and start accepting meaningful ones. This mindset builds resilience. It allows you to fall without breaking and rise without arrogance. Life will challenge you in ways no teacher ever could. It will test your discipline, your values, and your awareness. A student welcomes these tests, not because they enjoy struggle, but because they understand its purpose. Every challenge sharpens something within you if you allow it. When you walk through the day as a student, you listen more than you speak. You act with intention rather than impulse. You move through the world with quiet confidence, not because you feel superior, but because you are grounded in growth. You no longer need to pretend. You are becoming. This single morning reminder changes how you carry yourself. It keeps you humble when praised and steady when criticized. It keeps you curious instead of defensive. And most importantly, it keeps you moving forward. To wake up as a student of life is to wake up ready to learn, ready to adapt, ready to grow. Each morning remind yourself of a truth that separates the reactive from the disciplined. You do not control what happens, but you control how you respond. This understanding is not passive acceptance, it is quiet authority. Life will place obstacles in your path without asking permission. People will misunderstand you, challenge you, and sometimes treat you unfairly. Events will unfold that disrupt your plans. None of this is within your command. What remains fully within your power is the space between stimulus and response. Most people live as prisoners of impulse. Something happens, emotion rises, and action follows without awareness. Anger speaks before wisdom. Fear decides before logic. Regret arrives only after damage is done. When you wake up with the intention to control your response, you reclaim that space. You pause, you observe, you choose. In that pause, strength is born. A calm response is not weakness. It is discipline in motion. It means you are not allowing external forces to dictate your inner state. When someone provokes you and you react blindly, you hand them control. When you remain composed, you keep your sovereignty. The world may be loud, chaotic, and demanding, but your mind does not need to mirror that chaos. There will be moments when emotions rise like fire. This is natural. The goal is not to eliminate emotion, but to govern it. Fire can burn a house or warm it. Emotion can destroy clarity or sharpen it. The difference lies in awareness. When you notice anger rising, you do not suppress it, and you do not unleash it. You acknowledge it. You breathe. You allow it to pass through without letting it command your actions. Every morning is an opportunity to train this ability. The day will provide practice, whether you want it or not. Traffic delays, critical words, unexpected problems, internal doubts. These are not interruptions to life, they are life. Each one asks the same question: will you react or will you respond? Reaction is automatic, response is intentional. When you choose your response, you choose your character. Character is not revealed in comfort, it is revealed under pressure. Anyone can be calm when everything goes their way. Mastery is remaining steady when things do not. This steadiness is built through repetition. Each controlled response strengthens the mind, just as each repetition strengthens the BO. You may not always choose perfectly. That is not the standard. Awareness comes before mastery. Sometimes you will notice only after reacting. That awareness is still progress. Reflection turns mistakes into training. The next time the pause becomes longer, the response becomes cleaner. Over time, what once controlled you loses its grip. There is great freedom in accepting that you cannot control others. When you stop trying to manage external behavior, you conserve energy. You stop fighting reality. You redirect that energy inward, where real change happens. You refine your thoughts, your tone, your actions. This is where power lives. A steady response also protects clarity. When emotions take over, perception narrows. You see only what confirms your reaction. Calmness widens perspective. It allows you to see consequences before they unfold. A measured response today prevents regret tomorrow. Silence, when chosen consciously, can be more effective than any argument. This principle applies not only to conflict but to opportunity. Excitement can be as destabilizing as anger. Acting too quickly, speaking too soon, deciding without reflection. These also weaken control. A balanced response keeps you grounded in all circumstances, not just difficult ones. The mind learns through repetition. Each morning, reminding yourself of this principle prepares you for the inevitable challenges ahead. It is a form of mental armor. When something unexpected happens, you remember, this moment does not own me. I choose how I move through it. Control of response does not mean emotional distance from life. It means engagement without entanglement. You can care deeply without being consumed. You can act decisively without being reckless. You can stand firm without becoming rigid. This balance creates inner stability. Over time, people will notice this quality in you, not because you announce it, but because your presence remains steady when others waver. You become someone who brings calm into situations rather than chaos. This influence is subtle but powerful. Each morning as you begin your day, remember that challenges are guaranteed. Peace is not. Peace is cultivated through choice. The choice to breathe before speaking. The choice to listen before judging. The choice to respond rather than react. This choice, made repeatedly, reshapes your life from the inside out. When you master your response, you master your direction. Every morning, remind yourself that discipline comes before motivation. This truth is simple, but it is not easy. Motivation is an emotion, and emotions are unstable. They rise and fall without warning. Discipline, on the other hand, is a decision. It is not dependent on how you feel, how inspired you are, or how comfortable the situation seems. It exists beyond mood, beyond convenience, and beyond excuses. Most people wait to feel ready before they act. They wait for energy, confidence, or inspiration to appear. But readiness is not something you find, it is something you build through action. Discipline creates momentum. Action produces clarity. Waiting produces stagnation. When you wake up and commit to discipline, you move first and allow motivation to follow later, if it chooses to. Discipline is doing what must be done, even when every part of you resists. It is waking up when the body wants rest. It is focusing when the mind wants distraction. It is training when comfort offers an easier option. This is not punishment. It is self-respect in practice. Each disciplined action is a vote for the person you are becoming. Motivation feels good, but it is unreliable. It disappears when conditions are imperfect. Discipline remains when conditions are difficult. It does not negotiate. It does not ask for permission. It operates quietly and consistently. This consistency is what separates fleeting effort from lasting change. Small actions, repeated daily, shape the direction of a life more than occasional bursts of intensity ever could. There will be days when discipline feels heavy. On those days, remember that ease is temporary but regret lasts longer. The discomfort of discipline fades. The discomfort of inaction compounds. When you choose discipline in small moments, you spare yourself larger struggles later. Structure creates freedom. Routine removes decision fatigue. Clear standards remove inner conflict. Discipline is not rigid control, it is alignment. It aligns your actions with your values. You may not feel motivated to train, study, or work, but if these actions serve your long-term direction, discipline bridges the gap between intention and execution. It turns ideas into reality. Without it, goals remain fantasies. Each disciplined action strengthens trust in yourself. When you follow through even when it is inconvenient, you prove to yourself that your word has weight. This self-trust is a quiet confidence. It does not rely on praise or recognition. It grows internally, reinforced by evidence. You know who you are because of what you repeatedly do. Discipline also teaches patience. Results rarely appear immediately. Progress often hides before revealing itself. Discipline keeps you moving during this invisible phase. It teaches you to work without applause, to train without witnesses, to improve without validation. This builds resilience. You learn to stand on your own standards rather than external approval. There is a misconception that discipline limits freedom. In reality, the opposite is true. Undisciplined living creates chaos. Missed commitments, neglected responsibilities, and reactive choices lead to stress and dependence. Discipline creates order. ORDR creates choice. When your foundation is strong, you gain more freedom to move, to adapt, and to respond calmly. Each morning, recommitting to discipline is an act of leadership over yourself. You decide in advance how you will behave, so emotions do not decide for you later. This foresight reduces inner struggle. You no longer argue with yourself about what needs to be done. The decision has already been made. Discipline is not about extreme effort, it is about consistency. You do not need to do everything. You need to do the right things regularly. Even minimal effort, when repeated, compounds into strength. What feels insignificant today becomes powerful over time. There will be moments when discipline feels lonely. Others may choose ease. Others may mock consistency or call it obsession. Remain steady. Discipline does not seek approval, it seeks results. Over time, the same people will wonder how progress was made while they remained in place. When you wake up and choose discipline, you anchor yourself. You become less dependent on mood, circumstance, and external encouragement. You build an internal engine that keeps moving regardless of conditions. This is true strength. Not the absence of struggle, but the ability to act despite it. Each disciplined morning sets the tone for the day. Each disciplined day shapes the week. Each disciplined week builds the year. Over time, discipline becomes identity. You no longer force yourself to act. Acting becomes natural. Discipline is not a phase. It is a practice, a daily decision to honor your potential through action. Every morning, remind yourself that pain is not a mistake in your life. It is not a sign that something has gone wrong. Pain is part of the path you chose the moment you decided to grow. Growth without discomfort is illusion. Strength without resistance does not exist. When you accept this truth, early in the day, you stop being surprised by difficulty, and difficulty loses its power over you. Most people spend their lives trying to avoid pain. They avoid hard conversations, uncomfortable effort, emotional exposure, and physical strain. In doing so, they also avoid growth. Comfort feels safe in the moment, but it slowly weakens the mind. Pain, when faced with awareness, sharpens it. The difference is not the presence of pain, but your relationship to it. Pain comes in many forms. Physical fatigue, when the body is pushed beyond its habits. Mental strain, when focus is demanded longer than comfort allows. Emotional discomfort, when truth challenges ego. Each form has a purpose. None arrive randomly. Each one points to a boundary that is being expanded. When pain appears, the instinct is to resist. Resistance tightens the mind and amplifies suffering. Acceptance loosens the grip. Acceptance does not mean enjoying pain or seeking it recklessly. It means understanding its role. It means saying, this sensation is temporary, and it is teaching me something. The moment pain becomes information rather than an enemy, it transforms. Consider how the body grows stronger. Muscles tear under stress and rebuild more resilient. Without that tearing, strength never develops. The same principle applies to the mind and character. Struggle exposes weakness, not to shame you, but to show you where work is required. Without exposure, weakness hides and remains unchanged. There will be moments when pain feels overwhelming. In those moments, narrow your focus. Do not ask how long it will last. Do not imagine future discomfort. Stay with the present sensation. Breathe, observe. Pain expands when the mind panics. It becomes manageable when the mind stays present. Avoiding pain creates fragility. The more you run from discomfort, the less tolerance you develop. Small challenges feel unbearable. Minor setbacks feel catastrophic. Facing pain builds capacity. What once felt impossible becomes manageable. What once felt heavy becomes light. This is not because pain disappears, but because you become stronger. Pain also teaches humility. It reminds you that you are still becoming. It strips away arrogance and exposes reality. This humility is not weakness. It keeps you grounded. It keeps you learning. It prevents stagnation disguised as confidence. There is a difference between productive pain and destructive pain. Productive pain is aligned with purpose. It is chosen consciously in service of growth. Destructive pain comes from avoidance, neglect, or denial. One builds you, the other erodes you. Each morning, remind yourself to choose the pain that strengthens rather than the pain that wastes. Mental pain often comes from confronting truth, seeing habits that no longer serve you, acknowledging responsibility instead of blame, letting go of comforting illusions. This pain is sharp but brief. The relief that follows is lasting. Truth may hurt at first, but it frees the mind. Emotional pain teaches depth. It teaches empathy, patience, and restraint. It softens rigidity and strengthens understanding. Without emotional pain, compassion remains shallow. Endurance of emotion without escape builds inner balance. Pain also reveals priorities. When something hurts, it demands attention. This attention can guide you toward what matters. Ignored signals grow louder. Acknowledged signals become guidance. Pain that is listened to often leaves quietly. Each morning, prepare yourself mentally by accepting that discomfort may arise. This preparation removes shock. When pain arrives, you recognize it. You do not dramatize it. You do not personalize it. You treat it as part of training. Those who grow strongest are not those who suffer the least, but those who recover wisely, rest when needed, reflect when necessary, return with clarity. Pain is not meant to break you. It is meant to refine you. When you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this teaching me? Pain loses its cruelty. It becomes a guide rather than a threat. Facing pain daily in small controlled doses builds resilience. You no longer fear discomfort. You respect it. You move through it. And with each encounter, you carry less fear into the next. Pain is not permanent. Growth is. Every morning, remind yourself that you walk your own path. This truth sounds simple, yet it is one of the hardest to live by. From the moment you wake up, the world invites comparison. You see where others are, what they have achieved, how fast they seem to move. Without awareness, your mind begins measuring your life against someone else's timeline. When that happens, peace disappears. Your path is shaped by circumstances, choices, lessons, and timing that no one else shares. Even if two people start in the same place, their inner battles, strengths, fears, and responsibilities are different. Comparing journeys ignores this reality. It is like comparing mountains and rivers and asking why they do not look the same. Each has its own purpose and direction. Comparison often disguises itself as motivation, but most of the time it produces dissatisfaction. When you compare upward, you feel behind. When you compare downward, you feel briefly superior but empty. Neither state leads to growth. Growth requires focus. Comparison scatters it. When you walk your own path, you accept where you are without surrendering where you are going. Acceptance does not mean settling. It means seeing clearly. You cannot improve what you refuse to acknowledge. Honesty about your current position is strength, not weakness. From clarity, progress becomes possible. There will be moments when others seem to advance effortlessly while you struggle. In those moments, remind yourself that visibility is not reality. You see outcomes, not sacrifices, results, not discipline, highlights, not hidden effort. Judging your entire journey against a fragment of someone else's story is unfair to yourself. Walking your own path requires patience. Growth does not operate on urgency. It operates on consistency. Some lessons take time because they are deep. Rushing through them only ensures they return later, heavier than before. What you learn slowly, you retain fully. There is also danger in copying paths that are not yours. What works for one person may not align with your values, temperament, or long-term direction. Blind imitation leads to inner conflict. Authentic progress comes from alignment, not mimicry. When actions match who you are, effort feels grounded rather than forced. Each morning, grounding yourself in your own path reduces anxiety. You stop chasing external standards. You define success internally. Success becomes measured by discipline kept, awareness gained, and integrity maintained, not by comparison metrics that constantly shift. Walking your own path also means accepting solitude at times. When you stop following crowds, you may feel alone. This solitude is not emptiness, it is space. Space to think clearly, space to hear your intuition, space to build something real rather than borrowed. Many abandon their path simply because they fear this quiet phase. Progress is rarely linear. There will be pauses, detours, and setbacks. These do not mean you are off course. They are part of the terrain. Every path has uneven ground. Expecting smoothness creates frustration. Expecting challenge creates resilience. When you focus on your own steps, even small ones matter. A single disciplined action today outweighs hours of compa. Reason. Momentum is built through movement, not observation. Looking sideways slows forward motion. Walking your own path also protects your energy. Comparison drains attention and breeds self-doubt. Focus restores confidence. When your energy is directed inward toward refinement rather than rivalry, you move with greater clarity and less noise. There will always be someone ahead of you and someone behind you. This never changes. If you wait to feel ahead before feeling content, contentment will never arrive. Peace comes from alignment, not position. From knowing you are moving honestly, not competitively. Each morning, remind yourself that your responsibility is not to outrun others, but to remain faithful to your direction. Your pace must be sustainable. Burnout often comes from trying to live someone else's rhythm. Respect your limits while steadily expanding them. Over time, walking your own path builds quiet confidence. You stop explaining yourself. You stop seeking validation. Your progress becomes self-evident to you, which is enough. External recognition may come or it may not. Either way, you remain steady. When you commit to your own path, comparison loses its grip. You may notice others, but you are not disturbed by them. You understand that everyone is carrying something unseen. Judgment softens, focus sharpens. This mindset turns each day into practice rather than performance. You are no longer trying to look successful. You are becoming capable. Capability lasts longer than appearance. Walking your own path is not about isolation from the world. It is about clarity within it. You engage, learn, and observe, but you decide consciously what to adopt and what to release. Each morning, return to this truth. You are not late. You are not early. You are where you need to be to learn what you must learn next. Every morning, remind yourself that silence is not emptiness. Silence is a source of power. In a world that constantly demands noise, reaction, explanation, and visibility, choosing silence is an act of strength. Most people speak to be seen, react to be validated, and announce progress to feel secure. Silence removes this dependency. It brings you back to yourself. Silence creates space. Space between thought and action. Space between emotion and expression. In that space, clarity lives. When the mind is loud, it confuses urgency with importance. Everything feels critical. Everything demands attention. Silence restores proportion. It allows you to see what truly matters and what can be ignored. When you wake up and choose silence, even briefly, you begin the day grounded rather than scattered. You are no longer immediately pulled outward by demands, opinions, and expectations. You establish an inner center before engaging the outer world. This center becomes an anchor throughout the day. Silence does not mean withdrawal from life. It means intentional restraint. It means you do not react to everything you feel. Not every thought deserves expression. Not every emotion requires action. Silence filters impulse. it prevents regret. Many problems are created not by what happens, but by what is said too quickly. Those who speak constantly often reveal more than they intend. They leak energy. They give away power by explaining themselves to people who have not earned explanation. Silence protects your energy. It keeps your intentions private while your actions speak quietly over time. True growth happens quietly. Skills develop without announcement. Discipline strengthens without applause. Character forms without witnesses. When progress is loud, it often seeks validation. When progress is silent, it is usually real. Silence allows growth to mature without interference. There is also strength in not responding. Not every challenge is an invitation. Not every provocation requires defense. Choosing silence in these moments is not avoidance, it is discernment. You recognize that your peace is more valuable than winning an argument. Control is maintained not by dominating others, but by mastering yourself. Silence sharpens awareness. When you are not constantly speaking, you listen. When you listen, you learn. You notice patterns, intentions, and truths that noise would have hidden. This awareness improves judgment. It helps you act precisely rather than emotionally. The mind becomes clearer in silence. Without constant stimulation, thoughts settle. What remains is often more honest. You become aware of fears you were distracting yourself from and strengths you were underestimating. This self-knowledge is uncomfortable at first, but it is essential for growth. Silence also trains patience. You learn to wait before responding. Waiting reduces error. Many mistakes are made not because of lack of intelligence, but because of lack of patience. Silence stretches the moment, allowing wisdom to enter. There will be times when silence is misunderstood. Some may interpret it as weakness, disinterest, or distance. Let them. Strength does not require explanation. Over time, consistency speaks louder than words. Your calm presence will answer questions you never needed to address verbally. In silence, emotions settle faster. Anger fades when it is not fed by words. Anxiety loosens when it is not reinforced by rumination. Silence breaks cycles. It interrupts escalation. It gives the nervous system a chance to reset. Silence also builds inner confidence. When you are comfortable being quiet, you are no longer dependent on external validation. You do not need to fill space to feel relevant. You know your value does not come from constant expression. This confidence is steady, not in flat. There's a difference between silence and suppression. Silence is conscious. Suppression is avoidance. Silence observes emotion without releasing it recklessly. It allows you to process internally before deciding what, if anything, needs to be expressed. This leads to cleaner communication when you do speak. Each morning, embracing silence prepares you for restraint throughout the day. When conversations arise, you speak with intention. When conflict appears, you respond with clarity. When temptation calls, you pause. Silence becomes a habit of awareness. Silence also deepens focus. Without constant mental chatter, attention sharpens. Tasks are completed with greater presence. Time feels slower, fuller. You move deliberately rather than reactively. This improves both quality and efficiency. In silence, you reconnect with intuition. Intuition does not shout, it whispers. Noise drowns it out. Silence makes it audible. Over time, you learn to trust these subtle signals. Decisions become simpler. Alignment becomes clearer. Silence is not the absence of power. It is power held in reserve. It is knowing you can speak, but choosing when. It is knowing you can react, but choosing not to. This restraint gives weight to your words and actions. Each morning, returning to silence is like sharpening a blade. You refine awareness. You strengthen control. You prepare to engage the world without being consumed by it. Those who master silence move differently. They are not rushed. They are not easily provoked. They do not waste energy proving themselves. Their presence alone carries authority. Silence is not something you lose when the world gets loud. It is something you carry with you. Every morning, remind yourself that your life is your responsibility. This is not a burden placed on you by the world. It is a power you reclaim for yourself. The moment you accept responsibility, you step out of the role of victim and into the role of participant. Nothing strengthens a person faster than this shift. Responsibility begins with honesty. Honest recognition of where you are, not where you wish you were or where you pretend to be. It means looking at your habits, your choices, and your patterns without excuses. Not to judge yourself harshly, but to see clearly. Clarity is the foundation of change. Without it, effort is misdirected. Blame feels easier than responsibility. Blame gives temporary relief because it shifts discomfort outward. Circumstances, people, timing, and luck become convenient explanations. But blame also removes control. When everything is someone else's fault, nothing is within your power to fix. Responsibility returns control to you. It says, "This may not be my fault, but it is my duty to deal with it." There will be things in your life you did not choose. Your starting point, certain events, unexpected losses. Responsibility does not deny this reality. It simply refuses to stay there. It focuses not on what happened, but on what happens next. You may not control the past, but you are accountable for how you respond to it. Taking responsibility requires courage because it removes hiding places. There is no one to point at, no story to repeat, just action required. This can feel heavy at first, but the weight transforms into strength. Carrying responsibility builds capacity. Avoiding it weakens you. Responsibility also brings clarity to decision-making. When you know you are accountable for outcomes, choices become sharper. You act with intention rather than impulse. You think beyond immediate comfort. You consider consequences. This maturity separates reaction from leadership. Many people wait to feel ready before taking responsibility. But readiness is not a prerequisite. Responsibility itself creates readiness. You grow into it through action. Each small act of ownership builds confidence. Each follow-through commitment reinforces trust in yourself. Responsibility does not mean controlling everything. It means owning your effort. You cannot guarantee results, but you can guarantee integrity. You can show up fully. You can adjust when needed. You can remain engaged rather than detached. This mindset removes helplessness. When you take responsibility, excuses lose their appeal. They may still appear, but you recognize them as distractions. Each excuse costs you progress. Each act of ownership moves you forward, even if slowly. Over time, slow ownership outpaces fast excuses. Responsibility also deepens self-respect. When your actions align with your values, you carry yourself differently. You speak with less defensiveness. You stand with more stability. You do not need to exaggerate or justify. Your consistency speaks for you. There will be moments when responsibility feels unfair, when effort does not immediately pay off, when others avoid accountability and seem to advance anyway. Stay steady. Responsibility is a long-term investment. It compounds quietly. Shortcuts create instability. Ownership builds foundations. Responsibility also applies to inner life. Your thoughts, your reactions, your emotional habits. You may not choose the first thought that appears, but you choose whether to believe it. You choose whether to feed it. This internal responsibility shapes your external behavior more than circumstances ever could. When you accept responsibility for your emotional state, you stop waiting for the world to make you feel better. You take active steps to regulate, reflect, and recalibrate. This builds emotional resilience. You become less reactive and more grounded. Responsibility also changes how you view mistakes. They are no longer proof of inadequacy. They are data, information for adjustment. When you own a mistake, you reduce its power. When you deny it, you repeat it. Ownership shortens the learning curve. There is strength in saying, I was wrong, without self-punishment. There is strength in correcting course without drama. Responsibility simplifies life. It removes unnecessary conflict with reality. Each morning, reminding yourself of responsibility sets a clear tone. You stop asking what should happen and start asking what you will do. This shift directs energy toward action rather than complaint. Even small actions matter when they are consistent. Responsibility also improves relationships. When you own your part, defensiveness softens. Communication becomes cleaner. Trust increases. People respect those who do not evade accountability, even when it is uncomfortable. Taking responsibility does not mean carrying everything alone. It means choosing when to ask for help without surrendering ownership. Seeking support is not weakness when responsibility remains intact. It is strategy. Over time, responsibility becomes identity. You are known both to yourself and others as someone who follows through, someone who does not disappear when things get difficult, someone who adapts rather than blames. This identity brings quiet confidence. You no longer fear challenges because you trust your ability to face them, not perfectly, but honestly, not effortlessly, but persistently. Each morning, return to this truth. Your life responds to your level of responsibility. When you raise that level, your capacity rises with it. Every morning, remind yourself that your mind must be trained daily. Left unattended, the mind does not stay neutral. It drifts. It repeats old patterns. It amplifies fear, doubt, and distraction. Just as an untrained body grows weak, an untrained mind becomes chaotic. Mental strength is not something you are born with. It is something you cultivate through consistent practice. Thoughts appear automatically. You do not choose the first thought that enters your mind when you wake up, but you do choose which thoughts you entertain, which ones you reinforce, and which ones you let pass. This choice, repeated every day, shapes your inner world. What you repeatedly think becomes familiar. What becomes familiar feels true, and what feels true begins to guide your actions. Many people believe their thoughts are facts. This belief traps them. A thought arises, I am not good enough, this is too hard, I always fail, and they accept it without question. Training the mind begins with learning to observe thoughts instead of obeying them. You notice the thought, you label it, you decide whether it serves you. Awareness creates distance. Distance creates freedom. A trained mind does not mean a silent mind at all times. It means a disciplined one. Discipline allows you to return attention when it wanders. It allows you to stay present when discomfort arises. It allows you to focus on what matters even when distraction calls loudly. This ability is built the same way strength is built, through repetition. Each morning offers a clean starting point. The mind is most receptive in its early state. What you expose it to first matters. If you begin the day with noise, urgency, and comparison, the mind adopts that rhythm. If you begin with intention, stillness, or focus, the mind follows. Training starts with what you feed it. Mental training also involves restraint. Not every thought deserves energy. Not every worry needs analysis. Overthinking is not depth, it is lack of control. A trained mind knows when to stop engaging. It redirects attention toward action or presence. This saves energy and reduces unnecessary suffering. There will be resistance to training the mind. The mind prefers familiar patterns, even when they are destructive. Change feels uncomfortable because it disrupts identity. Persist anyway. Discomfort is a sign that new neural paths are forming. What feels unnatural at first becomes natural through repetition. Focus is one of the greatest signs of a trained mind. Focus is not intensity, it is continuity. It is the ability to stay with a task without constantly seeking escape. Each time you bring attention back, you strengthen control. Each return is a repetition. Over time, focus lengthens naturally. Emotional regulation is another outcome of mental training. Emotions arise quickly. A trained mind notices them early. It does not wait until they overflow. By observing emotion as it forms, you prevent it from hijacking behavior. This does not suppress emotion, it guides it. Mental training also requires choosing your internal language carefully. The words you use internally shape your experience. Harsh inner dialogue weakens resolve. Clear, firm language builds stability. Speak to yourself with precision, not cruelty. Correction is more effective than condemnation. Consistency matters more than intensity. Short daily moments of awareness outperform occasional long efforts. Training the mind is not a dramatic event. It is quiet, repetitive, and often unnoticed. This is why many abandon it. The results are subtle at first, but subtle changes compound. A trained mind reduces reactivity. You stop being pulled in every direction by impulse. You gain the ability to pause. That pause is where choice lives. Without it, behavior is automatic. With it, behavior becomes intentional. Mental training also strengthens resilience. When challenges appear, the mind does not collapse into narrative. It focuses on response. It asks what is required now, rather than why is this happening. This shift conserves energy and maintains momentum. Doubt will still arise. Fear will still appear. Training does not eliminate them. It changes your relationship to them. They become signals, not commands. Information, not identity. You acknowledge them and continue forward. Over time, mental training builds trust within yourself. You know that even when thoughts turn negative, you can redirect. Even when focus slips, you can return. This trust reduces anxiety. You stop fearing your own mind. The mind influences posture, breath, and behavior. When the mind is scattered, the body follows. When the mind is steady, the body aligns. Mental training improves presence in everything you do, from movement to conversation. Training the mind also means limiting unnecessary input. Constant stimulation fragments attention. Silence, stillness, and simplicity restore it. Choosing what not to consume is as important as choosing what to practice. Each morning, recommitting to mental training is an act of self-leadership. You are not waiting for the mind to behave, you are guiding it. This guidance shapes your day more than circumstances ever could. The mind becomes what it practices. If it practices worry, it becomes anxious. If it practices awareness, it becomes clear. If it practices discipline, it becomes steady. Training determines direction. Mental strength is not loud. It does not announce itself. It is felt in composure, clarity, and consistency. It shows in how you move through difficulty without losing direction. Each day you train, even imperfectly, you strengthen control. Over time, the mind becomes an ally rather than an obstacle. Train it daily. Every morning, remind yourself that today you show up. Not perfectly, not fearlessly, but fully. Showing up is one of the most underestimated forms of strength. Many people wait for confidence before they act, for clarity before they move, or for certainty before they commit. Those moments rarely arrive on their own. Progress belongs to those who show up despite uncertainty. Showing up means presence. It means you are not living the day on autopilot. You are not half in the past and half in imagined futures. You bring your attention to what is in front of you. This alone changes the quality of your actions. Presence sharpens perception. It reduces mistakes born from distraction. It allows you to respond rather than drift. There will be days when showing up feels heavy. Days when motivation is absent and energy feels low. On those days, showing up does not mean pushing to extremes. It means honoring the commitment to engage at the level you can sustain. Even reduced effort maintains continuity. Consistency matters more than intensity. Many people disappear when things get uncomfortable. They avoid difficult conversations, challenging work, or internal reflection. Avoidance feels protective, but it slowly erodes confidence. Each time you show up in discomfort, you build trust in yourself. You prove that you can face resistance without retreating. Showing up also means accepting imperfection. If you wait to act until everything feels aligned, you will remain inactive. Progress is built through imperfect action adjusted over time. You learn by doing, not by waiting. Showing up creates feedback. Feedback creates refinement. When you show up, you shift identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries and start seeing yourself as someone who does. This identity shift is powerful. It changes how you interpret setbacks. Failure becomes part of participation, not a verdict on your worth. Showing up requires courage, but not dramatic courage. Quiet courage, the kind that shows up early, repeats effort, and remains engaged when no one is watching. This courage does not announce it. It accumulates quietly. There will be moments when fear appears, fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of exposure. Showing up does not mean fear disappears. It means fear does not decide. You acknowledge it and continue. Each time you act despite fear, fear loses authority. Showing up also applies internally. Being present with your thoughts, emotions, and habits, not escaping discomfort through distraction. Sitting with awareness long enough to understand what needs attention. Internal avoidance delays growth more than external obstacles ever could. When you show up daily, momentum builds. Momentum simplifies effort. What once required force becomes routine. What once felt difficult becomes familiar. This is how discipline becomes natural. You no longer debate whether to act, action becomes expected. Showing up also refines character. Reliability begins with self. If you cannot rely on yourself, external commitments feel heavy. When you show up consistently, you become grounded. Your word gains weight, your actions align with intention. There will be days when results are invisible. Showing up without immediate reward tests patience. This is where many stop. But unseen effort is not wasted. Foundations are built before structures appear. What you practice now becomes capacity later. Showing up also keeps you adaptable. When you remain engaged, you can adjust course. When you disengage, options shrink. Presence allows correction. Absence leads to stagnation. Each day you show up, you reinforce the habit of participation. Life responds differently to those who remain engaged. Opportunities appear more often. Challenges feel less overwhelming. Not because life becomes easier, but because you become more capable. Showing up also means taking responsibility for your attention, not giving it away carelessly, choosing where to focus. Attention shapes experience. Hence, where attention goes, energy follows. Showing up means directing that energy intentionally. There will be moments when showing up feels unnoticed. No praise, no recognition. This is where integrity is tested. Do you show up only when observed, or because it aligns with who you are becoming? Internal standards outlast external approval. Showing up does not require dramatic change. It requires decision. A decision repeated daily. Even small acts of presence compound. One focused conversation, one completed task, one honest reflection. These moments build a life. When setbacks occur, showing up prevents collapse. You do not disappear. You stay engaged even if progress slows. This steadiness shortens recovery time. It keeps direction intact. Showing up also brings clarity. Action reveals truth faster than contemplation. You learn what works, what doesn't, and what needs adjustment. Indecision fades when movement begins. Each morning, recommitting to show up simplifies the day. You stop negotiating with yourself. The decision is made. You engage. This reduces mental friction. Energy is spent on execution, not debate. Over time, showing up becomes identity. You are someone who is present, someone who participates, someone who does not vanish when things get difficult. This identity brings quiet confidence. Confidence built this way is stable. It does not depend on mood or praise. It comes from evidence. You know you will show up because you always have. Life does not require perfection. It requires presence. Each day you show up, you shape your direction. Today, you show up. As the day unfolds, carry these truths with you, not as words to recite, but as principles to live. Remind yourself each morning of the strength you already hold, the courage to learn, the calm to respond, the discipline to act, the resilience to face pain, the wisdom to follow your own path, the quiet power of silence, the ownership of your life, the clarity of a trained mind, and the unwavering commitment to show up. Life will test you, it will challenge you, it will demand more than you think you have. But every morning is a new chance to rise stronger than the day before. Speak to yourself with purpose, act with intention, move with clarity. And through this daily practice, you will not merely live, you will become someone unshakable, someone steady, someone unstoppable. Remember, the world cannot define you, the circumstances cannot control you. The only thing that shapes the course of your life is the person you decide to be each morning. Today, choose to be strong, choose to be present, choose to show up fully. The path is yours to walk, and every step you take shapes the life you are becoming.